Hej y'all, welcome back. Tack för sist, välkommen tillbaka. Thank you for being here. If you're a subscriber or you're commenting or sharing or liking, thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. I think it's so cool. I really enjoy going through the comments and just seeing all the different points of view. I really dig it. I had a video a few days ago, maybe 3 days ago, that's doing pretty well for me. I think it's like 6,000 views, lots of comments. It was the one where I talked about, people are coming here from Europe and Africa and all over the world for the World Cup and discovering that America isn't what people say it is. I'm not going to get into that again. It's just it's cool seeing all the interaction. And so I'm having a lot of fun with it, and I really appreciate it. My team, Norway, got knocked out yesterday by England. England's a great team, but we should have won that game. The goal they disallowed, I think, was a bit of a crock on Norway's part, and then England scored a goal after it hit the camera cable, the ball. That goal should have been disallowed as well. But is what it is. They ran so much deeper in the tournament than anybody thought they were going to, and they were professional and cool and graceful when they lost. Erling Haaland just showed what a stud he is, and they really put Norway on the map for a little while, and I was really proud of my homeland. I love it so much. So tack för allt det. Det var så käckt att se. I wanted to talk a little bit about, and I've done this before, I go back and forth between kind of serious stuff and just fun, happy stuff. I don't want everything to be negative. In fact, I don't want anything to be negative. Even when I do my serious stuff, I really try to keep it kind of a positive spin on it. Today I want to talk about kind of growing up in the 70s. There are a few people that watch my videos from my little hometown growing up. They comment on my video. In fact, I was talking about, YouTubers that I watch yesterday, and the No Way guy is one of them. And he grew up very close to where we grew up. And one of my friends from she wasn't like a close friend. She was actually dated my brother, but commented and was like, holy cow, he's from there. And it's just kind of fun getting this connection with people and just reconnecting with people from my past. I have a buddy from high school that I know watches a lot of my videos. We don't get to see each other very much, but he comments on here, so we get to interact. And growing up the way I did, I've mentioned many times we moved from Norway when I was a kid, and none of us spoke English. My parents, us three boys, well, I was the oldest. Trond, my next younger brother, he's 60, and then Leif, who is 58, even though he won't admit it. Actually, he might have just turned 59. I think he just turned 59. He won't admit it, but they were pretty little. But I was full on speaking Norwegian. Trond was too. He just doesn't remember it. And it's pretty amazing that we moved to this little town in the middle of nowhere from across the world. I mean, it's just crazy. My parents are so ballsy. Although my mom does say if she was the woman she is today, she would have said, go pound sand. You're not taking me away from my whole family. Although now she's very happy she lives in Canada. She loves Norway. She goes back every summer. But I don't think she would move back to Norway if she had the choice. But I could not be more grateful or happy for where I grew up. I know that odds are most of you that watch these videos didn't grow up in little towns because, most people live in cities. There's been a huge shift in our society over many decades now, from kind of farm, rural life to more city life. I've been to almost every big city in this country. I've worked all over the country. And I like big cities, but I don't want to live in a big city. Salt Lake is close to us, and it's not a huge city. It's a few 100,000 people. If you take the whole valley, it's probably 1.5 million. It's grown so much since I moved to Utah 40 years ago. But the small town life, part of me wishes, I mean, we live in a kind of a smallish town, although it's grown so much since we moved there. I'm sorry, allergies are killing me. I'm itching and I'm trying to control it. I'm sorry. There's something going on around here that's just really bothering me. Anyway, I kind of wish our kids we would maybe move to a little bit smaller town, maybe 30 or 40 miles from where we're at. Also, I've said this before, I kind of wish we would have not raised our kids in a Mormon community because it was really tough on them. And I love living in a Mormon community. There's tons of benefits, but one of the negatives, and I've mentioned this before, and a lot of you have said, yes, we had the same experience, is a lot of kids, the parents won't let them play with the non-Mormon kids. Let me just adjust this a little bit here. So that was kind of rough for my kids. But me, I made friends. My best friend growing up, we met right after we moved from Norway. He's mentioned, he remembers me only speaking Norwegian. But little kids, they can get along with anybody. And they don't care what you look like, what color you are, where you're from. Little kids don't care about any of that. I wish we could carry that into adulthood. Everybody. What a beautiful world it'd be, huh? But growing up in that little town, seriously, we never locked our doors. Nobody I knew locked our doors. Our town was so small that for the phone number, like I remember my home phone number was 403-223 and then 4 numbers. I don't know if it matters if I say it, but I remember the number. But because it's such a small town, all you had to do was dial the 223. All you had to do was dial the 3 and then the last 4 numbers. And that's all we had to dial for years. And my elementary school was pretty small. I don't remember how many kids were in my grade, but I'm guessing not much more than 100. My high school graduation class I used to say it was 99 people, but somebody that I graduated with said it was like 118 or something. Still a very small class. You knew everybody. You weren't necessarily friends with everybody, but you knew everybody. And it was very cool. Even we had 2 high schools in my town. We had the public high school and then we had the Catholic high school, St. Mary's. But even that school, especially as you got older and you were driving, you kind of recognized everybody. When I was growing up in that town, it was probably around 5,000 people. I think it's getting close to 10,000 now. Still a small town. But the blessing of growing up in a little town like that where you don't lock your doors, nobody locked their cars. We were so free to do things at a very young age. Like literally at 10, 11, 12 years old, my buddies and I would grab a sleeping bag and a tent and we would hike down to the river bottom, which was, I don't know, 1.5 miles, 2 miles out of town from our house. And we would spend the night on our own. It just was never an issue. In the summer, we would ride our bikes and we would create games. I know I sound like an old fart. I am an old fart, whatever. Judge me, call me boomer, I don't care. I go anywhere now. I was eating breakfast this morning at the hotel and I was looking around and even people that were sitting with other people, everybody just staring at their phone. Obviously, we had no cell phones back in 1975. And I'm so glad we didn't. Kids that grow up with that technology, they don't know any different. I'm not mad at somebody. I don't blame you. I'm too addicted to my phone too. I love this. I love being able to do this social media stuff. I just got off the phone with my son, my youngest son. He lives in Nevada. He's 25, and he's thinking about maybe starting something up. And if he does that, and he wants me to, I'll pass it on. And he's got some really cool ideas, which I'm not going to share because that's going to be his thing. But I love the social media stuff. I just don't love that a lot of people seem addicted to it. And I'm no saint. I am on it too much. You know, I do 3, 4, 5, 6 TikTok videos every single day. I haven't missed a day in coming up on a year and a half. And I have fun with it. I like doing these videos. I like feeling like I'm talking to somebody right back here. Most of you are really cool, and I get a lot of cool comments. There are a couple people, I'm not sure why they watch me. They obviously don't like me. They leave lots of comments, but it's always negative, nasty stuff or contradicting. You know, they're allowed to. Whatever. I don't get it. You know, I watch lots of other people on YouTube. I watch what I like. I don't go looking for something I dislike so I can tell them what an idiot they are. But to each their own. Going back to the 70s, you know, summer vacation started not too long ago for most kids in this country. And the last day of school, you know, if you could bottle a feeling of that last day of school, and then as it ends and the bell rings or the day's over, if you could bottle that, you'd be a bajillionaire. That is just the greatest feeling in life. Well, let's not say the greatest, because there are some pretty cool feelings in life, but it's right up there. And it's something you don't really experience once you hit adulthood and get into the workforce and you have responsibilities and you got to pay the mortgage. And, you know, I get a bit of that feeling. Like last week, well, a couple weeks ago, I went home for the 4th of July and we went camping with a bunch of friends. And I get a bit of that feeling as leading up to it. I have to have something to look forward to. When I'm out here on the road for 2 or 3 or 4 weeks in a row, I couldn't exist if I didn't, you know, obviously I'm looking forward to going home to my family. That's a big deal. And it's a blessing. But I like having things, specific things, you know, whether it's Christmas or Thanksgiving or a camping trip or going to Norway. I have to have something, you know, the carrot in front of me to chase. I like having something to chase. And it gives me the motivation to go do what I've got to do. So I really like having things to look forward to, and we always do. We go on lots of camping trips. We have a whole big group of fantastic friends. I'm so blessed. You know, I dig my wife, my kids, my grandkids. I love it. But I wish my kids and my grandkids could have grown up when I grew up, and had the experience of just going out with your friends and riding your bikes. You know, I'm sure a lot of you have seen the movie Stand By Me. River Phoenix, Corey Feldman, Will Wheaton, really Jerry something. I can never remember his last name. Kiefer Sutherland. I really feel like that was my childhood. You know, they go on a trek to find the boy that got killed by the train. And it's this big adventure. We never did that, but we went on adventures all the time. We would go down to the river bottom. So we lived in the prairie, flat, just flat, for as far as you could see. The Rocky Mountains were not far away, but it was about an hour and a half to get to them, to Waterton National Park, which if you're ever up in Alberta, go visit Waterton, go visit Banff, go visit Jasper, Glacier Park on the Montana side, just beautiful, beautiful places. But we lived on this flat prairie. So it was really cool to go down to the river bottom, because all of a sudden you didn't feel like you were on the prairie anymore. It's called the Old Man River, runs through there. I've said this before, it's probably the Oldman River. It was probably named after somebody, but everybody calls it the Old Man River. And it's kind of a cool river. It's relatively wide and big for being in the prairie like that. But it has cut like a mini canyon out over millions of years. And so the prairie just drops down into this canyon. You got these hills rising up on both sides of the river. And that was our adventure place, especially when we were young. We would go out there, and like I said, we'd camp, we'd go catch frogs, we'd fish, we would go swimming in the river. We'd skate on the river in the winter, play hockey. it was a really cool place. We had big irrigation ditches that ran all over the place too. And we used to tube down those, and they'd have little spillways and culverts you could go through. And it sounds a little dangerous. It really wasn't, although one boy we knew did drown, and it was awful. But that was the only incident I ever remember ever happening, and that was horrific. I think he was a year older than me, so I knew him. And it was really sad, but there wasn't this overprotectionism, is that a word? That I see in a lot of parents these days, where everything has to be structured all the time. A kid gets out of school, you got day camp here, you got baseball here, you got ballet this day, you got summer camp here, you're going to this, and everything's scheduled. We had none of that. Now, I did play soccer. I grew up playing soccer my whole life growing up. For 13 years I played, and I was pretty good. I actually had a chance to try out for the Canadian junior team, and I kind of got sabotaged by my coach because his son played the same position. Still resent that. I don't know what would have happened. Anyway, I played sports. I played baseball, and it was fun, but it was never, I played high school basketball. It was never structured like it is now. Some parents came to the games, but a lot of parents didn't. Like a basketball game, a high school basketball game, I'd say half the parents of the kids were there and half weren't. And sometimes it would rotate. Practices, most of the time we'd just walk. The town was small, we'd ride our bike. My parents didn't take me to practices. They didn't hang out there. Now, lots of parents just stay at the practices and they feel obligated to be there. I liked kind of having the freedom and going and doing my thing. I love my parents, but man, I enjoyed the non-structure. I liked being able to just have the freedom to go hang out and, hey, Mom, Dad, we're going down to the river for a couple nights. Okay, be safe. See you later. Here's some sandwiches. Hey, it's summer. We're going to go ride our bikes. See you tonight. No cell phones, no pagers, no way to get a hold of anybody. You might call, my mom might call my friend's house and say, is Arnold around? Usually wasn't. We're almost always out doing something. I can remember days when it would just rain so much that the streets would flood. Being in the prairie, not a ton of rain. When you'd get the heavy rains, the streets would literally flood. Kids would be out there splashing, swimming, putting a tube in there. It really doesn't snow or rain a whole lot up there anymore. But when I was a kid, we had all kinds of snow days. And it takes a lot in a Canadian town to shut a school down. 40 below, get to school. Walk to school. I can never remember one time my parents driving me to school. I lived probably about a mile from the high school. And until I could drive, I walked. It didn't matter how cold it was. And it wasn't cool to put your toque on. Toque is a Canadian word. It's like a beanie, but we call them toques, stocking cap, whatever you call it. Toques. I should do a video sometime about Canadian words because we have our own freaking language up there. But we would get snow days where it would snow and drift and blizzard. And those were such exciting days, knowing you don't have to go to school today, but we're still going out. We're going to go jump in these drifts. We're going to go bumper skiing. Now, I'm not recommending this. Don't do something unsafe. This is just my story, my life. But one of my favorite things growing up when especially, let's say, 13 to 17 years old, like once I could drive, then I was the one pulling people, or I'd go behind my buddy. But this is crazy. Do not attempt this at home. I am telling you, I'm not recommending this. But we would grab onto the bumper and we would get pulled around parking lots. And sometimes it'd get crazy and be going 40, 50 miles an hour. Just nuts. It's nuts. We used to water ski in the irrigation ditch. And you're like, how the hell do you water ski in an irrigation ditch? You got a boat in the ditch? No boats. So if you grew up in that area, and some of you that grew up around where I grew up that are watching this, you'll remember this. You have a little road that runs along the irrigation ditch so that they can service them. The farmers can get to them, all that. And we would bring a truck, a car, and hook a rope to the back of the car. And some of the skis we used were just homemade water skis, planks, basically. The problem is you have to get out into the middle of the canal. The canals, the really big ones are maybe, I don't know, 40, 50 feet across. So you want to get out in the middle because the truck wants to pull you in. And the problem also is there's like a bridge like every mile. So you can't just go forever. So when a bridge is coming up, you got to let go, obviously, and the rope goes around and then you can go again if you want. But we would go ridiculously fast. And, it's amazing that I'm still here. We did have a buddy that he just wasn't pulling out hard enough, and he got pulled into the rocks, and nothing life-threatening, but he got hurt pretty bad, and didn't dissuade us. We kept doing it. We would, a lot, as we got a little older, we had pellet guns when we were kids. 10, 11, 12 years old, we all had pellet guns. We'd go shoot gophers. The farmers would actually pay us to shoot the gophers because the gophers dig holes, the cows step in the holes, they can break their legs. Implement dealers, if you know what implement, like farm equipment, they would pay us to go shoot the gophers on their properties because they get into all the equipment, screw it all up, chew the wires, whatever. And they didn't want to see the dead gopher, but we'd bring the tail to them and we'd get 25 cents a piece. As we got older, we graduated to 22s. I was never much of a hunter. I shot a lot of gophers as a kid. I have a hard time shooting anything now. I don't like killing anything. But yeah, we'd go out shooting 22s, target practice, gophers, whatever. I mean, it was just this, there was so much freedom. And when you're growing up and you're a kid, you don't understand your experience. Maybe you grew up in an inner city and that was your experience and you had the things you did for fun. But I look back on it now and I just feel so blessed to have had that freedom, to be able to grow up in this small community where I knew everybody. I had lots of friends. There were fights too. We'd get in fights after school. Somebody bumps you in the hall and it's like, meet me after school. Teachers never, ever intervened. I think I can remember one, maybe two times. So I just said never. I can remember a couple times in all the fights that happened after school where a teacher intervened. They just let it be because nobody ever got hurt badly. There were no knives or guns. There was nothing psychotic about it. It was like, and when one guy or girl, because the girls fought too, had obviously lost, people would pull them apart, or the one that's winning would just back off. Sometimes they ended up friends. I had guys I ended up friends with. And it was just a cool life. And so if you grew up, actually, I'd love to hear your experience if you were in the city or wherever, because I dig hearing other people's experiences. I'm old enough now. I've heard a lot of people's experiences about all different places. And I really do enjoy reading your comments. Some of you leave really long comments. I dig it. I read them. I don't just somebody else wrote. No, I freaking look forward to it and I dig it and I appreciate it. So I could go on about this kind of stuff forever, but we're at 24 minutes. So I think I will wind it down. I got to wind my night down, get up for another day of work tomorrow. I got about 2 weeks left before I head home again. This will be a kind of a long stretch, but like I said, I have things to look forward to. It keeps me going. It keeps me relatively healthy. My job is labor, manual labor. It's not easy. It's a lot of bending over, climbing ladders, taping, spraying all day. You know, I've got carpal tunnel in both hands just because I do this thousands of times a day. Both hands, just squeezing the gun, the spray gun. But yeah, I have so many cool experiences growing up. I'd like to tell more of those stories if y'all are interested. And I want to talk more about Norway and the Viking culture, and just it's been so cool having Norway kind of be at the forefront for the last couple of weeks. I turned on Good Morning America the other day, and they were talking about the Viking row and Erling Haaland and the striking Viking, and it's so cool. I just dig Norway so much. I can't wait to go back and get to talk it all the time again, bone back up on it. After a couple of weeks there, I won't be fluent completely again, but I guarantee you I'll pick it up quickly again. So thanks for watching. I really do appreciate it. Thanks for sharing. It's fun watching this little channel grow, the little channel that could, who knows? And yeah, thank you. Tack för denna gång. Jag snackas igen snart. Thank you for this time. We'll talk again soon. I hope y'all, today is Sunday? I hope you're having a great night and a great week coming up. And, like I said, if there's something you want me to talk about based on what you've seen of me, I'm happy to explore all kinds of stuff. I don't want this just to be known as I'm the ex-Mormon guy. That's not what I want. This is part of my life, and I'm going to talk about it. Some of you said, why, if you left church, why do you do all these videos about church? Well, it's a big part of my life. It was a big part of my life. It's still, obviously, there's things ingrained in me still that when you grow up with something, it's hard to break a habit. I've pretty much broken away from the church. I don't feel like a Mormon anymore, but I'll defend it. If I hear somebody ragging on the Mormon church or Mormons, I stand up for them because I've got people very close to me that are active members. And I didn't mean to get off on that rant. Have a great day, y'all. Great night. Whenever you watch this, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. Peace. Love.